Oh, I guess we should start.
Oh, no, not yet, maybe. Oh, already, yes. You're right.
Should we wait 2 more minutes? Get started.
We can wait maybe 1 or 2 minutes. Maybe.
Okay. So I'll say we'll start at 8:13.
Today is 22nd.
Oh, yeah, no, I just need to put the start
Okay,
time.
yes, okay.
So I'm going to give 3 minutes.
Yes, yes.
Oh, we're supposed to sign in. Too.
Right.
Wow, really?
Hey, my friend, how are you? You interested in grabbing a bite after this? Any problem with Stephen and maybe one of
Last name Field. What?
It's just part of it.
Yes, I'm ready.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Good afternoon. Good evening, everyone.
Happy Thursday.
Happy Thursday, home stretch. Last session for the day.
Day and a half and I get to go home.
Yeah, don't go there. Okay. So welcome to the MILE working group. So if you're not here for MILE, you can choose to listen in or do something else instead. Next slide. So hopefully by now you are very familiar with the updated note well, so I will not keep you guys any longer. I'm presuming you guys know all this.
What? There's a privacy policy?
So I guess we can do the next slide, but I'm going to take a pause. So go ahead and do the agenda. Yeah. So we'll go ahead and Takeshi, do you want to give the status?
Okay.
Okay. So again, in the interest of time, this is the agenda. We'll do the quick agenda bash. Does anybody have comments or can we just move forward? Great. Okay. So before we get to the MILE status, what the chairs would like to do is gratefully and deeply thank our outgoing AD. As an AD, she has been or continues to be a personal friend advisor and guide to both of us. So we will sorely miss you as our AD, Kathleen. But yes, I'm relying on that. So we decided to give you something that may have a little alcohol, but gluten-free.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for all your work. Thank you for all your work.
And also with that, I wanted to welcome our new area director. I guess we're going to do something a little new. So he apologizes for not being able to be here, but he is actually not a security area director, but was the prior chair before my joining, and that's Alexi. So we're looking forward to having him back. Okay, so with that, let me turn it over to Takeshi.
So this is the status of MILE. As you can see, we have completed a lot of work until now. For the data representation, we have already published RFC 7970. So the remaining spec we have to work on is Json IETF. Regarding transport, we have a lot to do. So we still have to work on XMPP grid. For the Rolly core was already published in February, but we still have a CSAT Rolly. So we basically have to work on Json IETF, CSAT Rolly, and XMPP grid, and so on. And the milestone, we are a bit behind schedule as usual. So we want to finish XMPP grid by April, hopefully, and CSAT extension by, I don't know, to the authors. We will discuss on that later, maybe.
Yeah, we can discuss that later. And I apologize for some reason. I've tried to send out after I did the call for adoption twice, and it somehow didn't make it. And it's my fault, my laptop. So.
And for Json IETF, I will discuss on this later again. Okay, so that's about it. Let's go back to the agenda.
Yeah. So, so as I mentioned, the Rolly CSERT, I did put out a call for adoption, and it was positive, and I tried to send out the yes. Stephen graciously, and I accepted it this morning, did submit the actual working group version of the draft, and I'm presuming that's what you'll provide the update for? Yeah. So I think with that, we should just go ahead and let Stephen go.
Okay, oh, it's louder now. For those of you that were in SACM, there's going to be a couple duplicate slides, so try and get through those and then into the body of what I actually want to get into. Next slide, please. So as I talked about before, these are the Rolly drafts that are currently being thought about or being worked on. There is the CSERT document here in MILE. Like Nancy said, that was just officially posted as a working group document this morning. The software descriptor document that's in SACM, which was also updated recently. There is a Rolly discovery draft that I'm going to talk about today in this presentation as a personal draft. And in the future, we might work on something specifying search, and there has been interest in this room in particular with working on a JSON version of Rolly, which I'll talk about later as well. Next slide. So Rolly was published as RFC 8322. So that is very exciting. Thank you to the working group, everyone in this group that contributed to that document, either as review or comments. It was great work, and we made a good document. So that's great. Next slide. So Rolly CSERT, adopted as a working group document. It's draft IETF MILE Rolly CSERT 00. So as per the discussion that we talked about last time in IETF 100, we had some comments regarding the requirements when an IODEF content is being carried in the entry. We had these requirements that came into play as soon as you started carrying IODEF. I think Chris put in a bunch of comments about that, so thank you. We have relaxed those requirements. What that means is that it is much easier to actually carry IODEF in Rolly. It was a little bit, it was too difficult before. There was all these requirements, all these different things you had to do. So and it's now much easier to actually carry IODEF in a Rolly entry. It's much easier to implement. It's much easier to parse. It all makes a lot more sense. So those are really, really good changes. I'm really happy with that. And then in this most recent version, we also made a number of small editorial nit changes, updated all of our references, went through and just made a series of small updates. In the future, there are some things that we would like to change moving forward. So the document is currently an informational draft because it does not have particularly many normative requirements. Moving forward, we would like to upgrade some of the requirements around properties and categories in order to make sure that intercompatibility is maintained when you're dealing with IODEF and other CSRT data types, and move some of these requirements up to musts. So those changes have not happened yet. That's something we'd like to do in the future, and I'll be getting that draft out soon. At that point, I would like to get the draft switched over to a standards track document, since it'll be normative at that point. So I'll make sure that goes out to list when that happens, and we can decide what to do from there. Next slide. Oh yeah, I was just talking about this. And media type registrations as well. Yeah, I talked to Brett about the, go ahead.
Brett Jordan, yeah. So I'd like to help work on this document because I'm very interested in the top media type being supported by this. I do know a thing or two about that. The actual registration for sticks is being done elsewhere, so we won't need to worry about that here. So I am in the process of submitting that, but there is a weird caveat because the sticks is still trademarked and owned by DHS, and so obviously we can't register it yet because IANA won't accept that. So we're working on that as a separate outside this thing. But I would like to work on this document if that's okay.
Yeah. So I was not aware of the sticks media type issue. So we won't register sticks. But for IODEF, well, go ahead, Dave, first before we move on.
Yeah, actually, on the media type registrations, I don't see one for IODEF plus JSON. I guess maybe this is directed towards Taki as the editor of that draft. Are you planning on doing a media type registration for IODEF plus JSON?
I haven't think about it yet, but I have to, I guess. But maybe I have to ask assistance from you guys. I'm not familiar with that.
Yeah, we'd be happy to help. So I just went through the process of learning how all these media type registrations work, because I drafted up the SWID tag plus XML media type in software descriptor. So I'd be happy to show you that. And I did check, and there's no media type registration for IODEF, unless anyone knows otherwise. But I did not see one. So I think that it would be the best course of action for us to register that media type so that we can be using it in Rolly in order to describe these IODEF documents and be able to tell the consumer, hey, this is IODEF. At the moment, my plan is to do it in the actual document, the CSRT document itself, although I was talking to Ben. Oh, yeah, he's not here because he's not responsible AD anymore, or not for this, I mean. So he recommended that we talk to the designated expert for media types and ask him if it's best to do it in the document itself or to do it in an additional document. So I'll figure that out. But it is my plan to register the IODEF media type for Rolly so we can be using that. And then, yeah, we'd like it to be standards track once we make those changes, which will be soon. Next slide. So before I go on to this, Taki, you asked about working group last call. I would like to make those normative changes as well as the media type registrations to CSERT first before we go to last call. So I guess the fastest it could go is I do those updates and then we get it. I don't know,
Well, first we need to follow process, which is we need to have reviewers provide feedback. Brett mentioned he wanted to contribute. So
well, I have to do this update first.
yes. So once you give me the update, once you post the update, let me know so I can, so once we're done, I was going to ask for people to help review and provide feedback. Depending on the feedback, if there's very little changes, then, or if they're all editorial, then I can then ask the question to the group, do you believe this draft is ready for last call?
Right. So I will make that update. I haven't done it yet.
Yeah,
So-
no, so since we are a little behind schedule, the question is, when do you think you can get the updates done?
It won't take me that long. I can get it out in a couple weeks after I get back.
Okay, so let's just say mid-April. And then, so who has read this version of the draft and who is willing to be a reviewer?
As
Okay.
question 1 or question 2.
Okay, so who has read the current draft? Okay, we're going to need more people. So who is willing to review the updated mid-April? Mid-April. Okay, so whoever's taking notes, can you please write down Chris Inacio, Brett, Dave? Okay, and then Dave Cridland? So
Okay.
more importantly, the note takers, because I'm going to be going by the names that and then Kathleen maybe. Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks, everyone. That'll be helpful.
Sorry, Chris, Brett, Kathleen, Rogan.
Dave Kemp.
Kemp.
All the Daves.
Just put all the Daves here. Oh, wait.
Daves,
But I need to
plural.
know their surnames. So Walter Meyer, Cridland, and Kemp. Must be getting late in the day in the week.
Okay, so that's the core draft published as RFC, CSERT being updated. We'll get that new version out mid-April, and we'll go from there. This is work that is relevant to the core, and I want to talk about this for a few minutes because it's important and relevant to people that care about Rolly, and this is something that was actually taken out of the core document in order to get it through publication as quickly as possible. So if you go next slide, please. We do not discuss discovery in the Rolly core document, but we used to. We took it out because it was something that was going to delay the publication of Rolly, because it was something that we're going to have to go and figure out and write all this text for. So we took it out of the Rolly core document in order to get Rolly published as quickly as possible. It's something that is still important because at the moment, the only way for a Rolly repository to be discovered is for someone, a human, to input a service document location, the full URL for it, which requires some kind of side channel communication, right? They pull it off of the front page of a website, someone emails it to them, they stumble across it by accident and just find a service document laying there. One way or another, a human actually has to be involved for this service document discovery process. And clearly, as a machine-to-machine mechanism, that's probably not how we want to be doing things. We want to specify a discovery mechanism that allows for machines to automatically discover the full locations of service documents from a domain name. That's the kind of top level requirement here. Next slide. So in order to accomplish this, I've posted a new draft. It's really short because it's just kind of the framework right now. It's a starting point. We have a lot of ideas on how we want to do discovery that I'm going to go over. We have the technologies in mind and how we're going to use them. We've even started working on some implementation of it. and actually getting testing of it up and running already. So we have a really, really good starting point on this. We're not doing R&D. We kind of know what we're doing. We just got to kind of figure out the text. Go ahead, Brett.
Are you going to walk through those examples and what you're proposing?
Yes.
Okay. Because I'm one of those weird people that still runs their own bind server. And I've tried playing around with this because we have a desire for this in another tangential thing and have yet to find a decent solution. So I'd be curious to see what you have.
So I believe we've found a decent solution. That's my belief anyway. So next slide. We found two different ways of doing this. One is DNSSD and the other is NAPTA records. The first DNSSD is defined in RFC 6763. It's based on DNS. It builds out basically your typical zone file stuff, but applies a whole suite of extra requirements on top of that in order to basically expose arbitrary information. So it allows for arbitrary data passing through the DNS query system and full path resolution from DNS queries. So using DNSSD would allow us to, using a specific resource type, go in and actually from the query pull out the full path of a Rolly service document, as well as any number of Rolly service documents. NAPTA records defined by 2915 would also let us do the same thing, but with a lot of downsides that make it, I think, not the right choice for this. It was originally designed for the SIP protocol. It's based on regex. It's a little bit heavyweight. It's complicated. It would be really difficult to define in a document. It would be long and kind of difficult. And really the killer for me is that it requires additional implementation on the DNS server side. DNSSD just works since it's using existing fields to fill in information and additional requirements on top of that. DNSSD just automatically works on any existing DNS server. So that's cool. So we're moving forward with DNSSD, but I wanted to give the two technologies that were possible solutions up there. Dave.
Just a couple of additions. I mean, so there is a profile of NAPTA called UNAPTA, I think, which is same record type but supposedly vastly simpler. I think it's probably still Dave Cridland. It's probably still too complicated, but I mention it for completeness. The other is the .well-known URI forms.
Yeah.
Which I see that they're not noted there. Last I looked, and I confess I'm not keeping up to date on it, but Taxi over in the Styx land was using .well-known.
Yeah. So was Rolly originally. We actually had .well-known specified in the core document, and when we took it to the IESG, they said no. They said that .well-known is not designed for that purpose. They say we were effectively misusing it for as just this kind of arbitrary pointer when it's really meant for these kind of universal resources like your robot.txt and all these other things. Plus, it meant that I couldn't have more than one service document per server because there's only one, and a whole bunch of other suite of problems.
I can see that, well, you could work around the multiple service documents, but color me surprised that the IESG is saying that you shouldn't use .well-known for well-known URIs.
It's because it's pointing to a specific instance of a resource. It's not this. Yeah. I could go back to the email chains and see that's all on the MILE list. There was lots of feedback on it, but yeah, no, we tried .well-known, and these two are the remaining. And UNAPTA I'd not heard about, so thank you for pointing that out. I'll take a look and see if it fits on this list. But
yeah,
okay, sure, Brett.
So I actually found another one that dealt with some really interesting ways of viewing text records and some stuff like that to do a lot of this. I tried these in my bind server, and I couldn't get this to work well. So I'll help you work on the document, right? I'll help you write this discovery thing because it's of personal interest to me, because I want to find a solution to this, because like I said, I run my own bind and I couldn't get this to work. So
and Dave, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we got this to work.
Yeah, I Dave Waltermeyer. I have a virtual machine with bind set up with DNSSD. I'd be happy to either send you the virtual machine or the zone file as an example of that. But yeah, it took me about 45 minutes or so to configure the DNS server, and a lot of that time was spent kind of reading through the RFC and trying to figure out how to do that. So it's pretty straightforward how to configure that. I spent about an hour and a half, couple hours trying to decipher how to do Napter and didn't really make much progress on it. So I haven't yet been able to build a demonstration of Napter yet.
Yeah, so we do have DNSSD working. It works well. Next slide. So we're moving forward with DNSSD in the document just because we checked the other options. We'll take a brief look at UNapter, but it seems like DNSSD is just the right choice for this. It's simple. It's easy to specify. It makes the document much shorter and easy to read, and it's so much easier to implement. So unless someone has another solution, and I will look at UNapter, then I think DNSSD is the right choice for this. So this is something that's important for Rolly. It's a core mechanism in Rolly that we took out of the core document. I think we have. Go ahead.
Yeah, so this is something we have to ask the group,
That's right.
right? So I guess we can ask right now, does the group believe that we should address discovery for Rolly? Can I have a hum, please? Is there anyone that objects or does not believe? Can you hum, please? Okay, so that's good. It seems like, given the discussion, we still need to look at options. So let me ask the question more directly. You put out a draft,
Yes.
right? How many have read that draft? Okay, so we need to have that draft reviewed before we can say, are we ready to adopt?
Yep.
But it also feels like, given the discussion that's happened, that it would be good to have a summary evaluation of all the different options that have been at least discussed here. You might find some others, so that we can get guidance from the group.
Okay. So we already have the compilation of info on DNSSD and Napter. I could go and take a look at UNapter briefly, and then send those findings out to list.
Okay. So if we want to move quickly, I hate to do this, but if we want to move quickly, we could hold an interim. Otherwise, we can continue on the list and then make progress, do the call and face-to-face.
We
Do-
the interim someplace warm.
No. It would be over
Virtual.
WebEx. I am not going to host a face-to-face.
Calling from a sauna.
It would be a virtual interim.
Yeah, I mean. I
So
don't see a problem
we
with that.
could, I mean, that's another thing that we can follow up over the list, is to see if there's interest, and then we can do the doodle poll to get it moving.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. And the other thing, my last item on here is at the last IETF, we had in-room interest in starting a JSON version of Rolly. I haven't written a single word of it, but I would like to take a chance now to see if there's anyone in this room who would be interested in beginning to do authorship or contribution on that document. I know, Taki, you were interested, and Brett was interested as well.
yes, I will help co-author. I brought that up in Singapore and, tried to gauge the temperature of the room to see if it was even of interest. But yes, I would.
I think
I
we
would
took a
call
hum and there was
Yeah.
interest.
Yeah.
So we can't really do much until there's
Yeah.
something tangible.
Right. This is
Right.
just a call for people who want to help me.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to get
Yeah.
any kind of working group consensus or anything. I just
Yeah,
want help.
I
No,
work
that's
in.
fair.
I do some work in various working groups here in the IETF, but I haven't written my own IETF document yet. So I know how to do it in other SDOs. I just need help getting started.
You have people here who have experience, so.
Yeah. So once I get started, I can produce a lot. I need help getting started.
So Brett, the ask isn't for you to do everything or to know. We can all help you along with that.
No, we're gonna make you do everything. So
I think Stephen is asking for the meat.
yeah, Dave.
I'd like to participate in that also.
Okay, great.
Coming from a information model perspective, see how much of Rolly can be put into that format to make it easier to translate to JSON.
Okay, great. Sounds good. All right, so I'll reach out to everyone that have volunteered, the 2 people, and we'll get a draft ready for the I guess we'll just start working on it. It's possible we could have it for whenever this interim is, and if not, we'll have a first draft ready for the next IETF. Okay, and that is Rolly for today, I think, unless there's a next slide hiding, which I don't think there is. Okay,
I don't think so,
all right. Thanks, everyone.
but they're your slides, so. Okay.
So the next agenda is XMPP draft. So Nancy, please.
Wow, you're tall. I got it. I think this works because Taki will be up and he'll. Okay, so I'm really reporting out from all the great work that Peter St. Andre, my co-author, did. Next slide. So this is just really, really brief. So from the last set of feedback, I had way too much stuff in there that tried to show the entire workflow. And so the suggestion was that perhaps I had cut too much out of the draft. And also the request was to do a better mapping of how XMPP could be used in MILE, more specifically, how we could use it with IODEF or how IODEF could be carried through the XMPP system. Next slide, please. So to that extent, what we did was we kept the basic flow of how you would establish a connection into an XMPP ecosystem, or what we're calling the XMPP grid. And then from there, how you could establish a pub sub. So I think we took out the query, which is the direct, and just showed the pub sub because it needed a little more explanation. The other thing that we kept was how you could do the discovery using that. So we think the draft is ready. Dave Cridlin, we think we've addressed all your comments, but we didn't get explicit confirmation, so it would be good if you tell us if we did or not.
You did.
Thank you. But given some of the feedback in SACM, I guess the question, so I did these slides before you presented. So again, the whole notion was to show that, and we didn't want to put all of the different JEPs in there, right? But was just to show you the example, the base example of how you could carry information using the XMPP as a base foundational architecture, as well as XMPP as a transport. The question now is whether this group feels that we need to put more in here, or as we're now unfolding interoperability in SACM, whether we do another. Well, I still think we should do a separate one that's specific to SACM, since this one is specific to IODEF. But this is where I need more guidance, because prior to SACM, I'm willing to say this is ready for another review. And then if everything's okay, then I think we're ready to do another last call. But I put a lot of questions there before my conclusion.
Hey, Adam Monkville, CIS. Yeah, we'll review it again and see what it looks like. And
Okay.
keep in mind that we'll probably do something else, like in addition to,
Yeah.
or
And I'm willing to
parallel
work on that
to.
with you too.
Yeah,
given-
which would be great.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'd like to give it another review, because if I remember correctly, something still wasn't there that I think I wanted to be there, but I can't really talk about it right now because I just don't remember.
Okay,
Sorry.
I'm gonna hold you to it.
I can commit to giving another full review, and I can also commit to passing it around the XMPP Standards Foundation, see if there's
Perfect.
any takers there.
Yep, thanks. So that's all I have.
I got one. Sorry, this is Bill Munyon. I'll review it as well. And I think the only real question I had was for maybe a little bit more clarification on how the broker, the controller was going to authorize the subscription to specific topics, right?
Okay, so authorization is typically not in scope, how one affects the authorization. So I can add a sentence to the effect that when it authenticates, that it's presumed that you get authorization, but the whole policy of how it gets authorized, I don't think it's in scope.
Okay.
So I read the most recent version. The question I had was regarding the requirement level of the, like the first 7 sections, the non-security requirement stuff.
Yeah.
I think there's like one requirement in all of that. So from all the way from the beginning of the document down to security considerations, there's like 1 or 2 normative words. And then there's like 30 in security considerations. And so I'm wondering, from an implementation perspective, how do you conform? What are the definitions of conformance and actually implementing this standard? When I think there's probably not quite enough normative language to drive that. So I think maybe more normative language in the first couple of sections, just to make it clear, like, you must do this, you should do this. So the implementations can actually.
I can do that. I mean, the base was supposed to be the normative, but yes, fair point.
Right. There's just,
Okay.
I mean, there is a lot of normative stuff in security considerations,
Right.
which is really well laid out. I mean, no one's going to screw that up because it's all, someone's going to screw it up, but it's all.
Well,
it's
this
laid
is
out.
why it's in the security considerations, but I'll make sure that they get reiterated. Like I said, I might have cut too much, right?
Okay.
From the description. Thanks, that was good feedback. And I welcome more if there's more, right?
And
Okay.
I'll read it. I'll give a full review.
Okay, thanks.
So after another revision, we plan to have a last call again.
I can't speak as a chair. That's up to you. So I will do, so the question is up to you whether you want me to wait until I get the feedback.
But at least the language has to be changed. That was a comment, I guess.
Yeah.
Anyway,
So I can churn another revision and I can
Yes.
try and do it before, by mid-April. So,
So I hope everybody can provide a feedback maybe before the end of April so that we can finish this draft ASAP. Thank you. Please.
yeah, I don't know if this works, but I can click.
Okay. Can you click here?
These are, yep.
So now let me update JSON binding draft. So me, myself, and Roman and Mio is working for the JSON binding. And this is very easy work compared to the other blocks. It's the binding of the JSON to the IETF version 2. So I just want to quickly update what I have done. So based on the discussion at IETF 100, we just revised. What we did is just minimizing the pages. We had 60 pages, but now we have 39 pages. We minimize a lot. Go on, please. So this is the structure of the document. We have just like the same way as IETF version 2, we have IETF data type and JSON data model, another example, and schema. Go on, please. So in the IETF data type section, we have a table. We decided not to write sentences. Sentences are too long. We just have a mapping table. If we take a look at the table, we can see this is all the type of the IETF defined by IETF version 2. We can see how we implemented that by using JSON. It's very simple. Like the same way, this is the JSON data model section. We decided to use a table again. This is a list of the elements of the class. This is the corresponding section in IETF version 2. By the way, sorry. If I can go back here, I try to use a question mark or plus or asterisk in order to describe the numbers, quantities. So go on, please. So in section 3.2, this is very important, I guess. This is a list of the changes I made. Because we are using JSON, we have to change a bit. So this is the kind of changes I did. So for instance, we use attribute and element without any difference. They are equally treated as members of the class. And we deleted some classes. Flow class is deleted. Application header class is deleted. Signature data class, indicator data class, observable reference class, record class were deleted, as we discussed in the previous meeting. They are just containers. They were prepared for the semantic purposes, so we deleted, but it does not mean anything to the content of the data, I guess. So move on, please. Yes. So in the JSON schema section, we have a schema defined. So basically, the document is only for the schema. Other than schema, everything is just information. In section 5, complete schema is written. Other place is just explanation, not normative. This section is only normative. The problem is here. I don't know whether you can see. JSON schema is not yet published as an ROC. That's a problem. We wanted to finish this work today, but we cannot because of this reference issue. JSON schema is still individual draft, and we cannot reference it as a trustful reference for the standard track RFC. So
is the JSON schema draft a working group draft? Do you know? It hasn't been even adopted as a working group?
The reference we were using for JSON schema is not, which is why we're looking at CDDL.
Okay.
Which is and is progressing.
Okay.
So
from my understanding, CDDL, because I have another draft that will ultimately be waiting on it as well. That it's up for working group last call. That they're working through the last few issues, and that it should progress, fairly soon.
Yeah, I mean, if we know that it's stable, it's okay. We can still progress. All it means is that we can still go through and I can shepherd the document. It just means that it cannot be assigned a number until CCDL has you. Right.
So the question I have is whether we should switch to CDDL already, or we should stick to the JSON schema. Maybe the answer is already clear to me. We just want to skip, rely on to CDDL maybe.
Is it also possible to maybe just do this as an information model so that instead of a data model, so then it makes it really easy to map to JSON? No?
No, technically we can't because the information model is the IODEV v2 spec, because 7090 is the spec that has an information model, which is the UML. It has a data model, which is the XML, and we're positioning this as saying, here's another data model, which is kind of JSON.
So what I want to do is I move all the JSON schema to the appendix, and I will create the schema by using CDDL in the main body text. In this way, we do not have any problem, I guess. I just hope people can wait until I can understand how to write CDDL. I'm not sure, but maybe 1 month or 2 months, I can produce a new draft and try to ask you to review, and we hopefully can finish it ASAP as well.
So I guess the question to the group is, the original, if I remember, the original impetus for moving to JSON was to make it more compressed as opposed to the raw? Or
as I recollect the motivation for JSON, it was to get more adoption. So implementers wanted JSON.
So, well,
XML is old school.
Yeah. So, and I can speak to that, for other work. Organizations and Web 2.0 companies don't use XML anymore. And if so that's the reason, right? Is the developers, they have their development stack and they know JSON, they don't know anything else.
Right. So that begs the question of why CDDL? Is CDDL going to get, is that the new cool shiny thing to use?
It's unclear whether that's the new shiny thing in terms of adoption, but there's no other way to specify how to say it in JSON otherwise, because if we didn't do that, the document would be 2 pages saying, here is parsing guidance about how you do one thing, how you take the thing that's in XML and do it in JSON. So that's the only standards way that right now we can specify how to state things in JSON.
I would argue you don't actually have to do a schema. You could actually spell this out in property tables and call it out what it is in JSON. And then you don't get into this cat and mouse game of having to reference something that doesn't yet exist.
Dave Waltermeyer. I think the value, though, in providing a schema is that it helps implementations with ensuring that they conform with the model that we're describing, and it's also non-ambiguous. Whereas having textual prose can be non-ambiguous, but it's a very hard lift in order to try to get to that level. So having some normalized vocabulary for the model really can help with clarity in implementing.
I'm going to assert that the kinds of developers that Brett refers to as the average, the Web 2.0 developers and other people who are referred to as the cool kids. I hope I put enough disdain into saying that. I don't think that they are also the kinds of programmers who will care or be able to handle any kind of JSON schema.
Wait, they're using JSON, but they're not going to be able to handle JSON?
They're not going to effectively do validation against. Yeah, that's exactly it.
They're going to look at a piece of JSON and they're going to just implement it.
Okay.
And so when they implement against the
got it.
Twitter API or the Facebook API and on their page and it says, here's how you talk to our API, they just give a sample of the JSON and they just code to that. I mean, literally verbatim.
Okay.
And
So tossing it out, we haven't talked at all as the editor team. I mean, since CDDL is new to us, I mean, this is a late-breaking kind of development. Perhaps we can offline kind of explore and bring it back to the working group to figure out kind of what makes sense.
So I guess as far as the group is concerned, to the authors, do you want us to hold off or should we review this version? Hold off? Okay. Whew. Kind of.
Well, there's like 4 other documents we want everyone looking at it.
There's 3, just to be exact.
So, okay, we will produce the next version. And after that, I will ask Chair to ask some reviews. So hopefully people can review later. Thank you.
Yep. Great, thank you. Okay, so I think with that,
Thank you.
we're to reviewing milestones.
We have one more. Mio want to present.
Oh, that's right, Mio. Sorry, Mio. We have one more presentation. I think we're running out of time.
Okay. I will present my me and Take work. Oh, sorry. Me and Take work. IODF JSON XML converter. And here is converter overview. We are aiming to convert from JSON IODF document to XML IODF document and vice versa. And also, it's a running code for latest JSON IODF draft, 03 draft. And I'm currently implementing the converter including this IETF hackathon days in London. Next slide. We considered three approaches. The first is customizing existing OSS converters. There exist many OSS converters and conversion libraries, for example, JSON to XML or XML to JSON, XML to JSON, etc., etc. These tools are suitable for simple conversion, but difficult to implement custom mapping rules between JSON and XML. And second approach is using XLT, X-type translator 3.0. And it have two functions. One is JSON to XML, and the other is XML to JSON. It's described this W3CO pages, and I think it's suitable for simple conversion, and also it enables custom mapping rules using XPath functions, but it's complex. And I'm not familiar with XLT. So we choose the third approach, is making it own using existing Python libraries. And this is overall converter design. We use Python and Python library, Python modules. We use two Python modules. One is a Python object generation library called Python JSON Schema objects. And the other is XML code generator library called generate.ds.py. And this JSON schema library reads JSON IODEX schema and generate Python objects. And also generate.ds reads XML IODEX schema and generates Python code. And we are now writing this custom mapping rules among these objects and these Python objects. And currently, we are aiming to read example document, example JSON document, and convert it to example XML document. And next slide. And we encountered some problems. Object generator makes an error caused by self-reference recursions. This is caused by self-references of the contact class and event data class and indicator expression class. And it is originated from the original IODEX XML schema. But I think it's a implementation problem of the Python library. But it could cause errors on some other generators or validators. So we may consider the consider to remove these self recursions in the JSON graph. Okay, that's all.
So one question, are you planning to have this converter available in open source? for
Yes, of
everybody?
course.
Great. Thank you.
One question. This is awesome. So as we think about the JSON version of the document, are there more parsing rules that you learned that maybe we need to add in that list? And there's like 8 or 9 of them I think we have. Are there more based on this?
I think it's based on the latest one.
Okay. So it is. Awesome. Thanks.
Thank you. This is awesome. Yeah.
So any other business for us?
So are there any other, don't forget to sign the blue sheet. Given the size, we only put one. Yeah, well, yeah, don't ask for that. You may get it.
Dave Woltermeyer,
Yeah.
for the notes, what is AOB on the agenda? Were we supposed to do something?
Any
Oh.
other business?
Sorry.
All right. So we're down to the AOB. Does anybody want to raise anything? Going once?
Yeah, really quick. I forget what we said about the discovery draft at the end. I don't know if we asked people to read it yet or not. I was going to say don't read it.
Yeah, I don't think we decided
Okay.
you would read it. It was more that you would come back with
Yeah.
the group.
Yeah.
I would poll, I would ask for participation and the question to the list as to whether we wanted to hold a virtual interim so that we can discuss further. Yeah.
I just wanted to request that if the converter project was
Yeah.
going to be open source, to post the link to GitHub or wherever you put it into the mailing list. Thanks.
I think they have to get it working first, but yes.
Or not.
No. I mean, you want it even now. Okay. So,
Actually, we have a GitHub account already, Mind Working Group, where you can find that code already.
In my working group?
Yes.
Okay, cool.
great. Dave.
Yeah, can I be really rude and hark back to something that we covered this morning in SACM? Someone mentioned something about a sort of an XPath for JSON. That was you. All right. RFC 6901 may be of interest to you.
Thank you. Okay, now count again. Going once, going twice. Thank you, everyone. Nice try, Adam. Thank you. You always make this easy.
So we will be continue working on my for a while, I guess.
Yeah, because discovery draft. Oh, you want to continue?
It's okay. Of course. I like it anyway.
No, I was presuming, okay, we're just about done. But now there's a new discovery draft.
It's something to do. We can work anyway. I'm happy to work anyway.
Yeah, it's all good. The more the merrier. Last call on blue sheets or blue sheet. Okay. Yeah. I'm okay making it.